The notification appeared at 2:47 a.m. Sarah Chen has removed a photo you were tagged in. That single deletion didn't just erase my graduation picture, it erased 15 years of friendship and ignited a fire that would eventually light up the heart of Manhattan. My thumb hovered over the notification, a cold dread seeping into the bone-deep exhaustion of a 36-hour residency shift. It had to be a mistake, a glitch in the matrix. People don't just untag themselves from their Harvard Medical School graduation photo, especially not the photo. The one where we're clutching our diplomas like they're life rafts, mascara-streaked tears of pure, unadulterated joy streaming down our faces, hugging so tight I could feel her heart hammering against my ribs, or so I thought. A weird instinct, a little prickle of alarm, made me tap through to her profile. I scrolled down. Our picture from the med school formal last year? Gone. The selfie we took, heads together, cramming for our final board exams, surrounded by a fortress of textbooks and empty coffee cups? Vanished. I kept scrolling, a frantic, sick feeling churning in my gut. 10 years of digital history, 15 years of real-life friendship, wiped clean. It wasn't a glitch, it was a purge. And I was the one being cleansed. There was only one possible reason, and it was so petty, so venomous, it felt like it belonged in a high school drama, not in the lives of two women who could literally hold a human heart in their hands. The prestigious Johns Hopkins neurosurgery residency, the one we'd both dreamed about since we were kids, the one we'd both applied for, the one I got. The betrayal was a physical thing, a shard of ice lodging itself under my sternum. It wasn't just about the residency, I'd helped her. God, I had practically dragged her through organic chemistry. I'd shared every note, every mnemonic, every late-night study session. I once invented a fake family emergency to get out of a date with a guy she was obsessed with, just so she could have a clear shot. We were Maya and Sarah and Maya, an inseparable unit, a team. My mind flashed to my parents. I could picture them perfectly. My mom, her hands still aching from scrubbing the floors of some downtown law firm, and my dad smelling faintly of the industrial cleaner he used on the night shift. Both of them looking at that graduation photo like it was the Holy Grail. They had worked triple shifts. They sold the car my dad had lovingly polished every single Sunday. They downsized from our small house to a tiny apartment so they could afford the application fees and my interview suit. That picture wasn't just a picture. It was their American dream, signed, sealed, and delivered in a crimson Harvard folder. It was proof that their daughter, the scholarship kid whose lunch money was always just a little too tight, had made it. And now Sarah Chen, whose biggest sacrifice for medical school was trading her BMW for a newer model, had decided I wasn't worthy of being in the picture. With a single click, she'd tried to delete my history, my family's sacrifice, my achievement. She hadn't just untagged a photo, she had drawn a battle line. And I, Dr. Maya Rodriguez, was about to learn that sometimes the sharpest scalpel you have is spite. Our origin story sounds like the plot of a feel-good 90s movie. I met Sarah when I was 12, a perpetually awkward charity case dropped into the polished halls of Northwood Preparatory Academy. My uniform was secondhand, my shoes were from Payless, and my presence was funded by a scholarship designed to make the school's trustees feel good about themselves. The other girls, with their glossy hair and casual cruelty, circled me like designer-clad sharks. They called me Scholarship, as if my name was too common for their tongues. It was Sarah who first came to my defense. She stepped between me and a particularly vicious blonde who was mocking my hand-me-down blazer. "Leave her alone, Ashley," Sarah had said, her voice dripping with the effortless authority that only comes from knowing your dad owns the building the other girl's dad rents office space in. And just like that, an unbreakable bond was formed. Or so the movie version would have you believe. Our worlds couldn't have been more different. After our marathon study sessions, I'd go home to an empty apartment, waiting for my parents to get back from their night shifts, cleaning the very office towers that bore the Chen family name. Sarah went home to a house with a staff. We bonded over a shared dream, becoming doctors. We made a pact, scribbled on a napkin from our favorite pizza place, to conquer the medical world together. The thing is, when you're the scholarship kid, there's no safety net. No trust fund to cushion your fall, no powerful uncle to make a call if your grades slip. I knew I had to work twice as hard just to stay in the same place. Every A I earned was a testament to sheer grinding willpower. Sarah's A's were often supplemented by expensive tutors and a family legacy that could smooth over any rough patches. Harvard was where the cracks began to show. The pressure cooker environment brought out the best in me and the worst in her. I thrived on the challenge, my brain lighting up with every complex diagnosis. Sarah, for the first time in her life, was just another bright student in a sea of geniuses, and she couldn't stand it. Her competitiveness, once a friendly motivator, started to curdle into something toxic. I remember one study group for our pathology midterm. I'd spent all night piecing together a complex differential diagnosis for a rare neurological disorder. The next day, as we presented our findings to the group, Sarah recited my theory, word for word, presenting it as her own brilliant insight. When I shot her a confused look, she just gave me a tiny, tight smile and whispered, "We're a team, remember? Your win is my win." But it didn't feel like a team win. It felt like theft. Little things started adding up. A condescending remark about how my background must make me so resilient. A habit of forgetting to invite me to networking events with influential doctors her father knew. I brushed it off as stress. The pressure was getting to everyone. When it came time to apply for residencies, Johns Hopkins was the Everest we both wanted to climb. But I knew, with a certainty that chilled me, that if I told her I was applying, she'd see it as a declaration of war. So I did it in secret. I filled out the application late at night, my laptop screen a furtive glow in my small dorm room. The guilt was immense, but the instinct for self-preservation was stronger. The day the acceptance letters came out was the real beginning of the end. I got the email from Hopkins first. A wave of disbelief, then euphoria washed over me. I ran to find Sarah to tell her, hoping she'd be next. I found her in the library, staring at her phone, her face a mask of stone. "I didn't get it," she said, her voice flat. "Oh, Sarah, I'm so sorry," I started, my own joy instantly evaporating. "You'll get a great match somewhere else, I know it." "Did you?" she asked, her eyes finally lifting to meet mine. They were cold, devoid of any warmth. I hesitated. Yes, I got in." A smile stretched across her face, but it didn't reach her eyes. It was a grotesque parody of happiness. "Oh, Maya, that's amazing! Congratulations!" She pulled me into a hug, her arms stiff and unyielding. It was the coldest hug I had ever received. It was the same fake, brittle enthusiasm she'd plastered on for our graduation photo just a few weeks later. Looking back now at the digital ghost of that picture, her performance was flawless, a perfect smile for a perfect lie. The next morning, fueled by 2 hours of broken sleep and a vat of black coffee, I became a digital archaeologist, excavating the ruins of our friendship. I scrolled through years of Sarah's life, a life I had been an integral part of, only to find myself systematically, meticulously excised. There was the photo from Ashley's wedding, the same Ashley who'd bullied me in prep school. We were bridesmaids. In the original, my arm was linked through Sarah's. In the version now on her profile, the frame was cropped awkwardly, leaving only a disembodied sliver of my lavender dress and a few stray fingers of my hand on her arm. It was digital butchery. I kept digging. A group shot from a medical mission trip to Guatemala. There were 6 of us in the original photo, smiling, sunburned, and proud. Now there were 5. A blurry spot and a strangely distorted background were all that remained of me. It was like I'd been a ghost all along. The professional implications hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just a personal snub. It was a calculated career move. Sarah was curating her history, building a narrative where she was the lone genius, the singular rising star. I checked LinkedIn. Sure enough, the glowing recommendation I'd written for her was gone. The professional medical societies we'd joined together? She had removed my name from our shared project presentations in the group archives. She was erasing my professional footprint as deliberately as our personal one. My hands were shaking. I had to hear her say it. I needed the confirmation, the verbal twist of the knife. I called her. She picked up on the second ring, her voice as breezy and unaffected as if we'd just spoken yesterday. "Maya, hey, what's up?" Don't Maya hey me, Sarah. What the hell is going on? My voice was low, trembling with a fury I could barely contain. You've deleted everything. Every picture, every post. 15 years gone. There was a pause. Not a confused pause. A deliberate, weighted silence. When she finally spoke, the warmth was gone, replaced by a chillingly calm condescension. Oh, that. I was just cleaning up my profile. You know, keeping it professional. Professional? You cropped me out of your wedding photos like I was a photobomber. You edited me out of our mission trip picture. This isn't cleaning up, Sarah. This is erasure. Don't be so dramatic, she scoffed. Look, if you want to know the truth, I just feel like we're on different paths now. Your whole story. It was holding me back. My story? I repeated, incredulous. What does that even mean? It means, she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, that I'm tired of people thinking I only got where I am because I had help. And I'm tired of them looking at you and thinking, she trailed off. Thinking what, Sarah? Spit it out. That you only succeeded because of diversity quotas, she finished, the words slick with venom. The air left my lungs, the cheap shot I'd been expecting from prep school bullies, but never from her. It was the ultimate dismissal, the final poisoned arrow designed to invalidate everything I had ever worked for. You're a doctor, Maya, she continued, her tone now bored, as if explaining a simple concept to a child. You should understand the concept of excising a tumor before it metastasizes. You were always the scholarship girl, now you know your place. She hung up. I just stood there, the deadline buzzing in my ear. The silence in my tiny apartment was deafening. It wasn't just the photos. I started connecting the dots. The weirdly curt text from a mutual friend last week. The unanswered email from a study partner. Sarah hadn't just deleted me from her life. She had been systematically undermining me in ours, poisoning the well, ensuring that when she finally cut me out, I would be completely, utterly alone. I had been friendless for months and was only just now realizing it. The purge was complete. The days that followed were a blur of gray. I'd go to the hospital, put on my scrubs, and move through the motions of my residency. I'd suture wounds, analyze brain scans, and consult with attendings, my mind a million miles away. Every interaction felt fraudulent. Sarah's words echoed in my head on a relentless loop. You were always the scholarship girl, now you know your place. I started to believe her. Maybe I was an imposter, a diversity hire, a tumor. For the first time in my life, I thought about quitting. What was the point of saving lives if my own was in shambles? One evening, I came home to find my parents waiting for me, a Tupperware container of my favorite adobo sitting on my tiny kitchen counter. They must have sensed something was wrong. One look at my face and my mom's smile faltered. Mia, what is it? She asked, her voice soft. And just like that, the dam broke. I collapsed onto my secondhand sofa and told them everything, the words tumbling out between hiccuping sobs. The photos, the residency, the years of lies, the brutal phone call. When I finished, my father was silent, his jaw tight with a quiet rage I knew all too well. My mother simply came over, sat beside me, and took my hand. When I was first promoted to supervisor at the cleaning company, she began, her voice steady, one of the other women, an American woman, told everyone I only got the job because I was Latina. She said I was taking the spot from someone who deserved it. For a week, no one would talk to me. They would leave the dirtiest jobs from my team. They erased me from their break times. I looked up, my tears slowing. I'd never heard this story before. So what did you do? I whispered. A small, fierce smile touched her lips. I did my job better than anyone had ever done it. I made my team the most efficient in the entire company. I learned every corner of every building. I made myself so good, so essential, that they couldn't ignore me. They couldn't afford to erase me. She squeezed my hand. You do not let someone like that decide your place in the world, Maya. You show them. Her story was like a defibrillator to my soul, a powerful jolt that shocked my heart back into a fighting rhythm. I would not be erased. I would not quit. I would make myself impossible to ignore. That night, the grief transformed into fuel. I wiped my tears, opened my laptop, and began to research. I wasn't a crying victim anymore. I was a diagnostician, and Sarah Chen was my case study. I found her new job at a ridiculously prestigious private practice in Manhattan. Her bio scrubbed clean of any mention of collaborative work. Her social media was a masterclass in self-promotion, all carefully curated photos of her looking thoughtful in a lab coat or laughing with influential-looking people. Then I found it. The announcement that she was a featured speaker at the upcoming Future Leaders in Medicine conference in New York City. The keynote was about forging your own path in a competitive landscape. The irony was so thick, I could have choked on it. She was positioning herself as a lone wolf, a self-made star. My eyes drifted from the conference announcement to a pop-up ad on the side of the screen. It was for a new luxury watch, displayed on a massive digital billboard in Times Square. An idea, insane and brilliant, began to spark in the darkness of my mind. The power of public visibility. Sarah wanted to control the narrative? Fine. I'd write a new chapter, in 40-foot-tall letters. The plan began to crystallize, each piece falling into place with terrifying clarity. I would recreate our graduation photo, but without her. It would be a portrait of my success, my resilience, my story. And I would display it on a billboard in Times Square, right in the heart of her new kingdom, for the entire week of her precious conference. She wanted to erase me from a tiny photo on her phone. I would blow my existence up to the size of a building. I started making a list. I didn't have money, but I had something better: goodwill. I had 15 years of being a good friend, a dedicated student, and a reliable colleague. It was time to cash in every favor, call every contact, and turn the ashes of a dead friendship into a bonfire. My first call was to Jessica Riley. Jessica was a brilliant pediatrician who had been in our study group at Harvard. Sarah, threatened by Jessica's easy intelligence, had started a vicious rumor that Jessica was cheating off her. The accusation was baseless, but it stuck, casting a shadow over Jessica's final year. "Let me get this straight," Jessica said, her voice crackling over the phone. I could hear a baby crying in the background. "You want to put your face on a billboard in Times Square to professionally flame the ice queen who tried to torpedo both our careers?" "When you put it like that, it sounds a little dramatic," I said with a wry smile. "But yes, that's the general idea." There was a long pause. "Maya," she finally said, a slow grin spreading through her voice. "I'm so in. What do you need?" Next was Marcus, a surgical resident a year ahead of me. Sarah had collaborated with him on a research proposal, only to remove his name and submit it as her own, winning a grant that should have been his. When I reached him, he was still bitter. "She told me I didn't have the pedigree to lead the project," Marcus seethed. "Said her father's connections would get it funded. Count me in, Rodriguez. It's time someone held her accountable." The dominoes started to fall. I emailed Dr. Patel, a pathology professor who'd always seemed skeptical of Sarah's tendency to claim sole credit for group projects. He replied within an hour. "Miss Rodriguez," the email read, "I have long been concerned about academic integrity and the misattribution of credit. While I cannot officially endorse your methods, I can provide a glowing and entirely truthful letter of recommendation regarding your individual contributions to my class. Use it as you see fit." My little army of the erased was growing, but personal anecdotes weren't enough. I needed institutional firepower. I logged onto the Johns Hopkins Alumni Network, my fingers flying across the keyboard as I crafted an email to the head of the neurosurgery department, my own chief of surgery. It was a gamble. I was a new resident, and this was unconventional. I explained the situation, not as a jilted friend, but as a professional facing a campaign of deliberate sabotage that threatened the integrity of our shared credentials. To my shock, he called me into his office the next day. Dr. Miller was a man of few words, with a reputation for being tougher than titanium screws. He listened to my story without interruption, his face unreadable. "Dr. Chen's actions, if true, are a discredit to the Harvard name," he said, his voice a low rumble. "But more importantly, Dr. Rodriguez, your work here at Hopkins speaks for itself. You are an exceptional resident. This hospital does not back down from bullies. The administration has approved a formal statement endorsing your standing and achievements within this program. We'll have it ready for you by Friday." He stood up, offering a rare, thin smile. "Give 'em hell." The final, crucial piece of the puzzle was my family. My younger brother, Carlos, was a graphic designer with a network of broke, brilliant, and perpetually caffeinated creative friends. When I told him the plan, his eyes lit up. "A revenge billboard? Maya, this is the most gloriously extra thing you have ever done. I am so proud," he declared, immediately pulling out his laptop. He became my pro bono creative director. He recruited a photographer friend who specialized in powerful portraits, promising her an unparalleled portfolio piece. He roped in a digital marketing whiz who owed him a favor, and she started mapping out a social media strategy. We launched a small GoFundMe to cover the cost of the billboard itself, framing it as a project about celebrating underrepresented achievements in STEM. I told my story, anonymizing Sarah, but keeping the core details of the betrayal. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Donations poured in, not just from friends and family, but from total strangers. Women in tech who'd been pushed out by male colleagues. Immigrants who'd been told to know their place. Everyone who had ever been made to feel small saw themselves in my story. We didn't just raise enough for the billboard, we raised triple the amount. My little plan wasn't so little anymore. It had become a movement. The photo shoot was surreal. We didn't rent a fancy studio. Instead, Carlos and his photographer friend, a woman named Chloe with purple hair and an eye for raw emotion, set up in one of the empty classrooms at the community college where my dad's company handled the night shift cleaning. It felt symbolic. This wasn't about recreating the past, it was about redefining it. There were no fake smiles, no forced poses. Chloe directed me to think about the moment I opened my Hopkins acceptance letter, to remember the look on my parents' faces, to channel the fierce pride I felt walking across the graduation stage. We took solo shots, me in my crisp white doctor's coat, my diploma held firmly in my hand, my gaze steady and defiant. Then we brought in my real community. We took a photo with my parents, my mom's hand on my shoulder, my dad beaming with a pride so bright it could have powered the entire city. We took one with Jessica and Marcus, a united front of survivors. We even got a shot with a few of the patients I'd helped during my clinical rotations, their grateful smiles a testament to the real work, the work Sarah could never erase. Each click of the camera felt like reclaiming a piece of my soul. Back at Carlos's apartment, which now served as our campaign headquarters, we huddled around his monitor, piecing together the final product. The chosen photo was a solo shot. It was simple, direct, and powerful. My face filled not with anger, but with a calm, unshakable confidence. Beneath it, Carlos laid out the text in a clean, elegant font. Dr. Maya Rodriguez, Maryland, Johns Hopkins neurosurgery resident. Then, under my name, the stiletto-sharp kicker. Some friendships end. Excellence endures. It was perfect. Subtle yet devastating, professional yet deeply personal. For the final touch, the marketing expert suggested a QR code in the bottom corner. When scanned, it would link directly to a simple professional webpage we'd built. It featured my full academic CV, the letter of recommendation from Dr. Patel, the official endorsement from Johns Hopkins, and links to articles about the importance of mentorship and integrity in medicine. It was an unassailable fortress of facts. The final piece of the puzzle was timing. Sarah's keynote speech was scheduled for 10 a.m. on the Wednesday of the conference. Her networking mixer was Tuesday night. We booked the billboard for a full 7 days, starting at the crack of dawn on Monday. One of the biggest digital displays in Times Square, the one right above the entrance to the subway station everyone would be using to get to the conference center. As I wired the money to the advertising company, a mix of terror and exhilaration washed over me. This was real. There was no turning back. I booked a train ticket to New York for that Monday. I wasn't going to hide. I wasn't going to watch from a distance. When my face lit up the crossroads of the world, I was going to be there to see it. I would be present, available, and ready to tell my story. Sarah wanted me to know my place? Fine. My place was about to be front and center, Monday morning, 6 a.m. The air in Times Square was cool and surprisingly clean. the usual chaos of the city still stirring from its slumber. I stood across the street, a paper cup of coffee warming my numb fingers, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Carlos was beside me, buzzing with nervous energy. Jessica and Marcus were watching a live feed from their respective cities. Then it happened. The previous ad for a new soda fizzled away, and for a split second, the giant screen went black. And then, there I was, 40 feet tall, gazing out over the city that never sleeps. My name, my title, my truth, illuminated in brilliant high-definition color. Dr. Maya Rodriguez, Maryland, Johns Hopkins neurosurgery resident. Some friendships end. Excellence endures. I let out a shaky breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. It was bigger, more impactful than I could have ever imagined. It wasn't just a picture, it was a declaration. A few early morning tourists stopped and pointed, their phones flashing as they took pictures. A delivery guy on a bike slowed, squinted, and then gave a thumbs up. By 9 a.m., my phone started to melt. Carlos's marketing friend had seeded the first photo on social media, and it caught fire. #RiseAboveErasure began to trend on Twitter. A photo of the billboard posted by a popular New York blogger went viral on Instagram. The QR code on our site was getting thousands of hits per minute. The first media call came from a local news station. "We'd love to get your side of this incredible story," a young, eager reporter said. I agreed to a video call interview that afternoon. By lunchtime, medical journals and professional publications were reaching out. My story, it turned out, was bigger than a spat between two former friends. It was a flashpoint for a conversation the medical community desperately needed to have about toxic competition, academic honesty, and the particular struggles faced by women and minorities in the field. The best part, however, was the intel I got from my allies. Jessica forwarded me a text from a friend attending the conference. "OMG, is this that Maya girl you know? The entire registration hall is buzzing about it. Everyone is looking up at the jumbo screens outside." Marcus called me, laughing. "I have a source at the mixer tonight. He said Sarah showed up looking like a ghost. People kept coming up to her, showing her their phones, asking if she knew the Times Square doctor. Her face was priceless." Sarah's carefully constructed world was crumbling. Her keynote on forging your own path now seemed like a grotesque joke. Colleagues started scrutinizing her claims of solo achievements. Her new employer, the prestigious Manhattan practice, was suddenly faced with a PR nightmare. An anonymous source tipped them off to the discrepancies on her resume, and they quietly launched an internal investigation. The support was overwhelming. High-profile doctors I had only admired from afar were publicly endorsing me on LinkedIn, praising my courage and integrity. My own residency program at Hopkins shared the story on their official social media channels, using my billboard as a symbol of the values they championed. Job offers from other top-tier hospitals started rolling in via email. Sarah had tried to make me small, to make me invisible. But by trying to erase me, she had inadvertently given me the biggest platform of my life. She had wanted to put me in my place, and I had ended up in the one place no one could ignore. The confrontation happened on Thursday. I was doing rounds at Hopkins, feeling more focused and confident than I had in months, when I saw her standing at the end of the hall by the nurses' station. Sarah. She looked haggard, her expensive suit rumpled, her face pale and pinched with fury. She had flown from New York to Baltimore to confront me. "How could you?" she hissed as I approached, her voice a low, venomous tremor. A few of my colleagues, including my chief of surgery, Dr. Miller, who was exiting a patient's room nearby, paused to watch. "How could I what, Sarah?" I asked, my voice calm, professional. I felt strangely detached, like I was observing a clinical case study of a complete systemic breakdown. "You ruined me. My conference, my job, my reputation. You did this to be vindictive." I looked at her, at the woman who had been my other half for 15 years, and felt a profound, aching pity. She still didn't get it. She still thought this was about her. "I didn't do anything to you, Sarah," I said, my voice clear and steady, loud enough for the onlookers to hear. "I simply refuse to let you do it to me. You deleted our history. You lied about my work. You told people I was a diversity hire. You tried to erase me. I just put up a picture. A picture of me, my accomplishments, and my name. If the truth ruined you, that's a you problem, not a me problem. Dr. Miller took a step forward, his presence alone a silent, powerful endorsement. Sarah looked from his stern face to mine, then at the other doctors and nurses who were now openly staring, their expressions ranging from curiosity to outright disapproval. She saw there was no sympathy here. No one was buying the victim act. With a strangled sob of pure rage, she turned and fled down the hallway. The fallout for her was swift and brutal. Her Manhattan practice terminated her contract, citing professional misconduct. The Medical Licensing Board in New York launched a formal investigation into the ethics violations surrounding her stolen research and falsified claims. Her keynote speaking opportunity had, of course, been revoked the moment the story broke. Her reputation, the thing she had prized above all else, was in tatters. For me, everything changed. The Billboard campaign, fueled by the unexpected crowdfunding surplus and a flood of corporate sponsorships, evolved into something more. With the help of Jessica, Marcus, and my brother Carlos, we established the Excellence Endures Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to providing scholarships, mentorship, and support for underrepresented students in medicine and STEM. I found myself becoming a sought-after speaker, not just on neurosurgery, but on resilience, professional integrity, and how to combat imposter syndrome. My story became a case study used in medical ethics classes at several universities, inspiring real conversations and policy changes around credit attribution and peer support systems. In the whirlwind of interviews and foundation planning, I reconnected with a journalist who had covered the story for a major medical journal. His name was Ben, and his questions had been sharper, more insightful than anyone else's. He was impressed not by the spectacle, but by the strategy and the message behind it. Our interviews turned into coffee, coffee turned into dinner, and I found myself in a relationship built on mutual respect and genuine admiration. My parents, seeing their daughter not just surviving but thriving and helping others to do the same, were prouder than ever. Their sacrifices had been vindicated tenfold. A year to the day after the launch, I stood in Times Square again. But this time, I wasn't alone. I was surrounded by the first cohort of medical students supported by our foundation. On the same giant screen, a new ad was running. It was a collage of smiling faces, our students, with the foundation's name and a simple message: the future of medicine looks like all of us. As I was looking up, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Maya, it's Sarah. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking for your forgiveness. I want to make things right. I took a deep breath. A year ago, that text might have sent me spiraling. Now, I felt a sense of calm clarity. I thought for a moment before typing my reply. Sarah, forgiveness isn't something I can just give you. You have to earn it from yourself. I sincerely hope you get the help you need. Here is the contact for a professional ethics counselor I think could be very beneficial. True amends come from genuine change, not from asking for absolution. I hit send, then put my phone away. I looked up at the billboard, at the bright, hopeful faces of the students. I looked at Ben, who was smiling at me. I realized the best revenge was never about destroying Sarah. It was about building something better in the space she had tried to void. It was about ensuring that the next Maya Rodriguez would have a community so strong she would never, ever feel erased. In the 5 years that followed, the Excellence Endures Foundation helped over 200 underrepresented students get into and succeed in medical programs across the country. I completed my residency at Johns Hopkins and accepted a fellowship in pediatric neurosurgery, my true passion. The Times Square billboard became an annual tradition, a beacon of inspiration featuring the new faces of our scholars each year. Sarah Chen quietly left the practice of medicine. After extensive therapy and ethics counseling, she reached out one more time, not to ask for forgiveness, but to detail the amends she was making in her life, including funding a new academic integrity initiative at Harvard anonymously. We never became friends again, but a quiet, respectful peace settled between our stories. In my office, right next to my diploma from Johns Hopkins and a picture of my husband Ben and our 2-year-old daughter, hangs a framed photo. It's not the one Sarah deleted. It's a print of the first billboard, the one of me, alone and defiant, looking out over Times Square. Beneath it, a small brass plaque reads, "Excellence endures."